Thank you for joining me for the second section of my report on the state of Tamil Nadu's finances that I'm doing in early March 2017 ahead of the presentation of the government's budget. If you remember, in the last episode I talked about how to analyze a budget and what are the basic terms that one needs to be aware of. In this section I will briefly review what distinguishes responsible financial management from irresponsible ones or less than stellar ones, and talk a little bit about the history of this analysis that has already been done before. I've mentioned in the past that in 2003 the government of Tamil Nadu passed an act called the Fiscal Responsibility Act. This act is consistent with a series of acts that were passed at both the central government as well as many states, and part of a bundle that the center brought in called the FRMBM, Financial Responsibility and Budget Management Act. It was mandated for states to get full benefits from central governments to pass equivalent acts. In Tamil Nadu, the act passed in 2003 asked for progressively improving budgets and financial management, leading to an ultimate goal originally set for an early date but then moved back due to changing circumstances. And the goals were very simple. For our purposes, we really need to think of only two immediate goals. First goal, always run a revenue neutral account. That is, don't run current account or revenue account deficits. Always make sure the revenue is either zero or surplus. Second, always maintain fiscal deficits to less than 3% of GSDP. Because on the one hand, while it's good to invest in capital projects, and if you have to borrow for it, it's great, it's okay, it's acceptable, you can pay it back out of the benefits of the projects, you cannot borrow too rapidly or your interest payments will overwhelm everything else. So the two goals, remember, no revenue deficits and less than 3% fiscal deficit. This was supposed to be achieved first by 2008, then pushed to 10, 12 and so forth because of inability to meet those. And every time the goals were not met, the legislature of Tamil Nadu met and amended the target dates, but it is now in full effect for this year, 2016-17. In addition, the RBI, Reserve Bank of India, recently published a report about March of 2016 reviewing data up to 2015 of all the different states' performance in budget management and growth across India. And in that report it said a few different interesting things. The first, it said there are some states that after the passage of responsibility acts have fundamentally improved their finances and improved their budget controls and have seen great benefits from it. And states like Maharashtra and Gujarat. And then other states like UP have not done so and have therefore not seen the consequences. Of more granular clarity, they made 2 or 3 points. They said, if a state controls interest payments as a percentage of its total spending and instead spends on good programs, then it is likely to see future growth. Similarly, if a state keeps its fiscal deficit only for capital investment and doesn't finance revenue deficits from fiscal deficits, then it is likely to see future growth. Conversely, those states that don't have this kind of responsibility will see reduced growth in the future. The most important point to remember, in that report, it clearly shows Tamil Nadu as being one of the good states till 2013-14. However, when I first became an MLA and attended my first budget session last July, the amended budget after the interim budget was passed before the elections, I noticed some glaring discrepancies in the data in terms of the quality of financial management and the responsibility of the government. I made a few points. The first point I made was that the first 3 years of the last government had been managed fundamentally better than the last 2 years. And in particular, I said, every year in the last 2 years, that is 14-15 and 15-16, whatever the rate of growth of the economy was, the rate of government receipts was lower than that, and the rate of spending was higher than that. So every single year, for 2 years, economy grows at X, revenue grows at less than X, or receipts grow at less than X, and spending grows at greater than X. Of course, you can imagine this is a recipe for increasing deficits. I also said every year the government budgeted a certain amount of revenue from taxes and missed it 2 years in a row by 20%. And it did not have this infirmity or this inability to achieve its targets was not present in 11-12 or 12-13 or 13-14, but was present in 14-15 and 15-16. At which point I asked the government, Does this indicate that you are not able to execute the plan that you say you have, or are you just making up fake plans to make the budget look responsible, knowing full well that you cannot achieve these targets? Of course, the ministers gave me all kinds of responses saying that I wasn't really aware of what I was doing. The second set of points I made was related to capital investment. I said, again, in both 14-15 and 15-16, you were not able to achieve the capital investment targets that you set. You say you're a high growth regime, and yet you first set low targets, that is as percentage of GSDP or as percentage of the budget. Your capital plans are modest at best, and even those you fail to achieve. And how is that anyway compatible to your statement of being a visionary government, having a Vision 2023 document and saying that you are growing the state by investment? The final point I made was that in the 5 years of ADMK regime, debt had more than doubled from a little over 1 crore to 2.18 crores, and interest payments per year had more than doubled from 8,000 crores a year to 18,000 crores a year in a 5-year regime. And the bulk of those increases had come in these 2 years of mismanagement from my perspective. With that, I will conclude this section reviewing the performance of the government over the last 2 years and some preliminary questions that I had asked last July as a function of the information available to me. At this point, we have gone through how to look at a budget and what was the state of affairs as of last July with the information available then. Thank you for joining me.